Hey, what's up? How you guys doing? Did I show you this last week, the Dirty Boy preamp? This is great. Got to give some props. What a great pedal. Really fun. The Variac knob obviously varies probably voltage to the battery or something, or to the power supply, but works in a way that is just really cool. Like, sorry, I'm just diving right in here. Let's do that. Put it in front of like an already dirty, like decent sounding amp that's already got some crunch. This just adds a layer of gain and haze with the gain set low because it's kind of a Marshall in a box sounding pedal to me. But it'll do the overdrive a Marshall thing or a similar amp really nicely, or add another layer of gain, with the volume set to kind of boost a little and then the gain set quite low, like maybe just a quarter of the way up. Tone control the taste. Kind of wants to go into an amp that's not too bright, I think, if you're going to do it like that. But anyway, the Variac thing just adds this layer of like juicy feel and like a haze on top of the sound that's just super cool. So it's really nice. I like it. That's supposed to be me, I think. Kind of looks like me. Yeah. What else am I working on that's cool? My friends at CKK over in Sinvertech, same company, I think. Over in China, there's a fellow over there that has these pedals, and he's a Marshall nut, and man, they were good. But he's got the two different ones here, and I'm not sure the difference. You'd have to ask him. You'd have to contact them and ask. But the Sinvertech Harmonic Overdrive is this one, and then this one's really similar, and I'm not sure what it's called because he sent me two, and I'm foggy on it. And Richard Fortis is using these too from Guns N' Roses. And I hit him up this week. And it was so funny because I said, dude, I've mixed them up and I can't remember which one's which. This one's the Harmonic Overdrive. And then this one is labeled 003. This one's labeled Sample 01. And I kind of mixed them up because they look so similar. I put them both on the floor and then I forgot which was which because they're slightly different. But both Richard and it was funny because I was talking to him and I told him that I did that and I mixed them up and he goes, dude, I did the exact same thing. And I can't remember which one's which now. But I said, which one are you? Because he uses one in his rig. And he said, I think I'm using the light gray one. And that's this one. Right. And I said, that's the one I like the most too. They're both really cool. But this one just sounds killer into a dirty Marshall. It's kind of this one's got a flat gray, darker paint. This one's got a bit of a sparkle light gray. It's got a little bit of flake in it. They're both very nice, but anyway, just silly. We both have the same problem because they look so similar. Gonna do these next for a video. Gonna jump on this. A Kaluna and Spacetime from Valbrook. These are made in Germany. This is the Kaluna 2. So it's a tube overdrive. There's a tube in there. And I haven't checked this one out yet. I haven't checked this one out yet either, but I'm going to plug them in today. The last version of this was really good, like a nice tube front end for an amp to kind of another layer of drive and all that. So I'm on that. That's happening. Crazy tube circuits, that's happening. The Head Rush Prime, that's happening. I got all kinds of stuff going here. Other pedals, VS. Yeah, Crazy Tube Circuits, I said that. Solar. Going to look at some stuff from them. Coming up. Next couple of weeks, I'm very, very busy. I'm going to get in here and just crank because then I got to go on tour. So, you want to see the new guitar? Do you have the prototype, the SS90? It's right here. Right here. Let's take a look. There it is. Look at it. Just look at it. That bird's eye neck. Oh, my goodness. I love this guitar. Everything about it is working out great. Those inlays, you can see the loom inlays on the side that light up, and they're just great for seeing where you are if you're a blind guy like me. And I love the pickup, love the finish, playability. The bridge is absolutely amazing. Stays in tune so great for being a just traditional style bridge. Yeah, I'm really sold on these Sir bridges. They're so good, man. They're not your typical. I know they look like a Godo or whatever, but they're not. Try it and tell me I'm wrong. Just as far as nothing wrong with Godo. I like Godo, what Godo does, but this bridge is the tuning stability is wow. Like coupled with the, tusk nut and then the angle they've got going to the tuners over the nut and everything now. It's just like unbelievable for tuning and stuff. All right. I'm gonna look. I haven't even seen who's here, so I'm gonna take a look here. We got some familiar faces. We got some different people. What else? Hey, hello, Pete. Early start. Good to see everyone here. I don't know. I was like right on time, but I guess it could be seen as early. Or maybe you meant you've got an early start. Yeah, it's good to not be late, I guess. I did my best today. Hello from Australia, says Fan of the Wild. What's up? Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Love you guys in Australia. We're like cousins. I'm Canadian, so, and American, but, Commonwealth cousins we are, for sure. Oh, my goodness. What else you guys talking about? Let's see. Arthur says, I'm so all about getting one of those guitars. My Gibson's being rebuilt is actually that same pickup configuration. Cool. Yeah, man. It's a great, the P90 and 2-strat singles is great. Just works good. Does Sir make their bridges in-house? No, they're not like machined in-house, but they're to a spec that they get done. And they don't make that hardware there. They make their pickups in-house. They do make lots of stuff there, but the bridges are made for them to their spec. Yeah. How are rehearsals going? Well, we did. You mean for Satch Vi? We did rehearsals already, which were great. Those guys are off now doing. Joe's in Vegas with Sammy Hagar doing the residency there, and Steve Vai is with Beat in South America playing looks like epic big shows, like big arenas and stuff like that, which is awesome for those guys. I saw some photos, so they'll be both doing that for the next few weeks until we convene again and get ready. So yeah, but there is something really cool coming this week from the Satch Vi Band Camp. So later in the week you shall see. I think it's the 8th, something like that. So just in a few days, which I'm really excited about. So more on that in a little bit. Do you agree that Joe Satriani is the greatest living American musician given certain accomplishments? I mean, I don't think you can name a greatest of anything when it comes to art, but I mean, we've got to give Joe credit for having an incredible career and continuing to push forward and work really hard and be vital. And, he's such a great guy and obviously just really dedicated to Steve as well. Steve keeps pushing, with different projects and always wanting to do something else and move ahead and not do the same thing that he did last year, So I think they both should be commended for that. And, amazing stuff, man. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I guess since last week, I played a really fun gig that I didn't even mention. On Monday night in Vegas, I played a show. It was a private gig, but I got to play with some amazing musicians, man. And some just the singers were so much fun, from Mark McGrath to Tone Loc. I got to play Funky Cold Medina with Tone Loc. It was awesome. He's so cool. I mean, it was so fun. I was like smiling the whole time. And Wild Thing. Got to play that with Tone Loc. And then I'm straight into Crazy Train with Sebastian Bach. So this was a really fun show. Matt Junkins and Billy Morrison and Gilby Clarke and the world's greatest drummer, Josh Freese. So it was really fun. So that was amazing. Very, very happy about that. Hope to do more. For coffee and car treats, Aston Ray. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Or I think that's supposed to say cat treats, but I got a new car this week, so More on that later. But I thought you meant car treats, fun stuff for my new car. Oh no, I think you mean cat treats. Yeah. Glenn, thanks for that super chat as well. Appreciate that, and thanks, Eston, for the super chats, you guys. It's really kind. Keeps the coffee going around here. Yeah, cat, not car, but it was apropos. I did get a new car, so got my first Ford. I'm the proud. I'll show you a picture of it because why the heck not? Proud, not owner, but sort of. There it is. Looks like that. It's fun. All blacked out on the bottom, pearl white. Good times. Marquee. Good times. I love it so far. It took me a couple days to get used to it. It was like, oh, this is a little like going to a Windows computer after driving a Mac or using a Mac. But now I'm getting pretty used to it. It's warming up to it pretty quick. So it's fun. My dad was a Ford dealer, so this is actually my first Ford since those days in the late 80s. Yeah, I drove different stuff for a long time, but this is my first Ford. It's fun. What else we got here? Let's see. How would you get a ZZ Top sound with an amp under $1,000? Well, ZZ Top, man. I mean, it's basically kind of like an Ombre, a Sir Ombre. You might look for a used Sir Ombre. It's going to cost you more than that, but maybe not a ton more. I don't know. Depends on what kind of deal you could find out there. But that early Brown Deluxe sound is the ZZ Top, at least the first few records. That was kind of what he uses stuff, a Brown Deluxe. So it's not quite as dirty as Tweed. It's sort of proto Marshall. I mean, like a Marshall, you can get there with for sure like a Plexi style amp too, or a JTM 45, kind of that thing, that sort of sound for sure. But yeah, sort of look no further than a good Brown, so whatever gets you there. I mean, just look around, see what you can find, but you want that early 60s Brown Deluxe sound. Take that and see what's out there. Yeah. So, my niece says, does not look like that new Ford will hold it's a truck, man. It's actually really big. I mean, it's more room than what I had, that's for sure. I'm pretty sure it actually would. You could probably put two 412s on top of one another once you put those seats down. It's really tall in the back when it's up. So it's full. I mean, I've been driving cars forever. I guess you could say this is like my first SUV. It's really a small SUV. Once I realized how much higher I'm sitting and stuff, I was like, oh, this isn't really a car at all, is it? Got a bit more of that between, like basically a small SUV feel. Yeah. Chris says, I've been digging the Maverick. What is the Maverick? Isn't that a truck? Is it a truck? I think it's a small truck, right? I gotta look to see. Maverick. When I think of Mavericks, I think of my mom had one in the 70s, I remember, and it was like it's a pickup truck, right? That's cool. It's a good rebranding of the, Maverick XLT. It was a small car, but in the 70s. Yeah, we just got a Mach-E, says Brett. That's cool. Fun car. Yeah, they are fun. It's cool. There's lots of fun stuff in it. Pretty neat. Any thoughts on the new orange solid state amps? Well, I've never really used them that much other than the little guys, the little like I don't know if it's the Tiny Terror but the small little pedal one, which very cool for what it is, and then also the Pedal Baby and stuff. I think those are pretty great for what they are. But I've seen Ty Tabor use them a couple times live now, and he always sounds great. So, they're doing something right. Yeah. Let's see. Ebar says they have a lot of room. I could put a 412 in mine. Easy Ford Escape size. Yeah, kind of like an Escape, I would say. Similar. Yeah. When you have a moment on the Wildwood website, tell us what you think of the Gibson USA Original Collection. Gibson USA Original. Let's take a look. Gibson USA Original Collection. I'm just going to look at the Gibson website for a second here and take a look at what that entails. So you've got the Les Paul standard. So it's kind of the standard Les Paul 60s, 50s. Those will have the different shaped necks. Looks like there's a Firebird. ES330, that's kind of fun. It's like short scale, right? 2 P90s. Is it short scale? I think. Explorer. It's all the standard subjects. Are you thinking of one in particular, like a particular one? All the usual suspects, I should say. All the standard suspects. Les Paul standard, in other words. SG's kind of cool. There's an SG standard with a Maestro Vibrola that's got open coil pickups. That looks pretty neat. I like the look of it with the open coil pickups. That's kind of rock and roll. It's kind of Angus Young or something. Looks neat. I like that they chose to do that. Yep. Okay, we got some super chats going here. I gotta grab those in a sec here. Yeah, amp tones really matter when you're playing a bar with terrible acoustics. Well, it's all relative, I mean, it'll sound worse with a worse amp, won't it? So you got to do the best you can. Then once again, just say the Serenity prayer, right? The wisdom to, deal with the crap that you can, and to just not let the other stuff stress you out, and have the wisdom to know the difference, right? That's the Serenity prayer, something like that. I screwed it all up, but you know what I'm getting at. Okay. Do you know if Seymour? I'll get those super chats in a sec. Do you know if Seymour Duncan pickup that's most similar to the Tone Zone? The Tone Zone, no. I mean, the Tone Zone is supposed to be the kind of close to the Van Halen pickups, I think. If Larry DeMarzo was watching this, he's gonna berate me. But Tone Zone. Let me just look at the spec. Not that tells us anywhere close to everything, but I think it's about a, let me see, Tech Talk. Where's the specs? There we go. Alico 5, 17K resistance. I don't know how balanced the coils are or anything like that. To be honest, looking at this, I would say probably like not far off from a Sir SSH Plus. Maybe the Warren, is the Warren D Martini pickup Alnico 2. Let me see if the RF, it's called the RF RTM. Yeah, it's Alnico 2. It's around the same. I'm sorry, I'm not really sure. Yeah, I would say I think the Sir SSH Plus it's Alnico 5 17K. So the Marzio is 2, but that's only a couple. There's obviously other things, the wire and the wind and the like how balanced the coils are and all kinds of different stuff that changes things. So but I'm going to say, like, on paper, that's the closest, or at least in my mind, that's the closest I can think of off the top of my head. I'm not sure what Duncan is a similar spec, though. Yeah. Eston says Maverick was the car that kept blowing up from getting hit in the rear end. I think you're thinking of the Pinto, my friend. The Pinto. Anybody ever try these? Peanut butter, perfect, something or other bars. Get them at Starbucks. Oh my god. Let me just tell you, delish. Okay. Can you talk a bit about Japanese ash? You know, it seems quite light, at least my guitar. I don't really have a perspective on how hard it is, but my Destroyer is a badass guitar and sounds killer. And it's not heavy by any means. Good question. I mean, I'm not really sure, other than owning one, and if mine is typical. I've played a few actually, and they're all relatively light. Like Friedman has a V. It's really light. I've seen a couple others, a V and another Destroyer and stuff, and they were all, none of them were boat anchors or anything like that. But let me see if there's anything on the internet about. AI says Senwood, also known as Japanese ash, is a popular wood in Japan used for furniture and interiors. It's known for its pale yellow gray. Yep. Fine grain, especially when quarter sawn. When flat cut, it exhibits a cathedral character. It can display dramatic figure. Mine's got fairly dramatic figure. Yeah, I mean, if it's used for, used in taiko drums and some guitar and bass models as well. Sen and Japanese ash are sometimes used interchangeably. This is interesting. There are distinct species, although they share some similar properties. That's interesting. Not exactly the same. So it's a sort of misnomer to call Japanese or Sen Japanese ash or vice versa. Very interesting. Well, we've learned that today. Japanese cedar. Never even heard of that. It's supposed to be very strong. It's interesting. I don't know why cedar isn't used in guitars more. Straight fine grain when cut on the quarter and nice cathedral character. That's what I'm seeing. It does look like American ash. I mean, it looks like, like the ash they would use in or maybe it's Canadian, but whatever, ash they would use in like a 54 Strat. Where you see that really pronounced figure. It's very similar. That's going on my Destroyer for sure. I love the figure on my Destroyer. So anyway, I think, well, tell us what you think when you get that guitar. I'm interested. Is that an original Graco SC 600? SC 600. I love Japanese guitars. They're so fun. Here's a vintage 1981. I wonder if this is the one you got. Guitar Center. Interesting. Cool looking guitar. Looks like a 54 Strat, basically. That's cool looking. Guard is kind of the wrong color, but it's neat looking. I think they made them in all kinds of different finishes. Here's an SE600 white, 1982 on Reverb. Kind of looks like it's interesting. It's got a big heavy brass bridge on it. Heavy brass knobs. Yeah. Neat guitars, man. Anyway, all right. Let us know what you think when you get it. What else we got here? Let's see. Would you mind playing some stuff on a low-end Squire just to demonstrate it's in the fingers rather than the hardware? Well, it is. It's in the fingers rather than the hardware. Most of it. A great guitar is going to make it easier for you, obviously, but It's just a tool. A good carpenter could work with cheap tools and probably end up with a very similar result. Probably just might not be as enjoyable getting there. Whereas that part of it is, a good guitar that does everything you want. It's not just getting the notes out and executing the parts. It's enjoying the process and feeling like you're one with the tools that you're using, right? And I appreciate nice things. It's kind of like getting A to B. A good driver can get A to B in a beat up 1982 Honda Civic, or they can get A to B in, a beautiful ride that is really fun to drive. Since we're talking about cars, that, is safer and the whole 9 yards, right? Like safer, more fun. I mean, you're going to get from A to B, but one is just much more enjoyable process it's kind of the selfish part of it is the instruments we choose, I guess. We could get work done on just about anything, I think. And they are just tools. I mean, I remember like Arlen Roth talking about this, about how he used, he was a PV endorser, I think, for a while, and he was using like a classic 50 amp and anybody remember the guy? He had the video courses and stuff like that. Good guitar player in the 80s. He was quite popular, as an instructor and stuff. But anyways, I remember reading an article with him saying, I use, these are my tools, they're like working man's tools, whatever. And this is what I choose, and I choose like classic 50 and simple guitars and just to, things that get the job done. And I always appreciate that, but I like nice things too. I've always liked nice guitars, nice amplifiers, things that are machined well, things that are built well, quality, and I enjoy using those things. So can you get it done on, and having said this, like they're making great stuff now, like Squire Affinity or whatever they're called, or the classic Vibe series or whatever that I've picked up. Those are just great, man. I mean, they're good instruments, they're well made, and way better than what I started on. So manufacturing has come a long way in many parts of the world, and so it is what it is. But yeah, what's your thoughts around Giacomo Turra stealing? I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm not saying that right. Stealing music, selling tabs of that music, faking playing ability with editing tricks. I mean, the guy can obviously play, but I saw the videos and stuff and about what he's been doing and stuff, and I do think it's kind of lame. I mean, he's obviously really talented, but that's a mistake that he made. That I know it's I don't know. I mean, it sucks, actually, like to take these great. There's a lot of people out there that are really terrific that don't get any notice. On YouTube or Instagram. It's a difficult thing. It's all, based around things that are sometimes out of our control algorithmically. And I do think that it's crappy to, take the work of some people that are just trying to do the same thing, get out there, and they put the time and the work into being very creative. And he takes those things and then he's making money off of it. And, not, I mean, it's like, crediting the original. It's like beyond crediting. It's like, how do they earn any income? If you take their piece of music and then you print like that's out and out, playing someone else's song. It's like, okay, there's licensing things now and some money in YouTube or whatever can get back to the person, I guess, if you just cover things. I mean, that's kind of, if you can't beat them, join them. That's the way that the YouTube world's gone, as opposed to like flagging everything and pulling things down. Most people these days are just saying, you get that little notice, this is copyright material and you're now sharing the revenue with the original, owner of the publishing. So that's the way that's gone. But having tab and, sheet music printed essentially, or downloads or whatever it is, and then selling that is not cool. It's not cool to do that because it's just not cool. So, but the guy can obviously play. So I think I'm kind of like vacillating right now. It's like, I want to cut him some slack. And then I'm also like, but he must have known that this is, so there's a part of me that's like, yeah, like, cause I think he did get called out on some things and then added, inspiration by so and so or something. Part of the problem these days is, with some of this stuff is that, 4 chords doesn't make a song necessarily. You got to cop a melody and all that. But he was really copying things, like really copying things. It wasn't just chord progressions and a couple notes or whatever. It was the whole solo kind of thing, and then transcribing it and selling it. It's like, it's just, that Larry David meme where he's like, it's like, did you really have to? So that's how I feel about that. It sucks. Not nice. Yeah. I mean, I've probably copied things inadvertently, like progressions or a little bit of a melody here and there, because I write a lot of stuff for these videos I do, and stuff probably gets in there, and then you turn it around, it comes out again. A few people have said, oh, that's like this Megadeth song or something, or that's like something else, and it's like, that's never intentional. I'm just always sitting there coming up with stuff, but there's only so many chords and 12 notes, and sometimes you land on things. But man, I mean, I sit here and write things, and I'm proud of that. I sit here and come up with things that off the top of my head or whatever, and just listen to that internal voice. And that's the fun part for me. The idea of actually going and learning someone else's stuff, note for note, and learning a solo, and then recreating it all, and then tabbing it and selling it. That sounds like a nightmare to me. Like, just put the time into being creative and writing. I know it's easier said than done. Some people are like, how do you write all this stuff or whatever? And I'm like, that's the fun part. I don't know. That's the part I really enjoy. If I wasn't doing that, it wouldn't be any fun. If I was just sitting playing some tired licks or something over and over again, that doesn't sound like fun to me at all. The fun part is writing and producing and recording stuff. That's the part I enjoy the most, is the creativity. So I would just encourage him to actually try, and he's obviously can play, and all that. So I would just encourage him to just, all right, go 100% the other direction at this point now, since you've been called out and you were doing things that, people are angry about. Your redemption can be in your own creativity and trying to do things and committing to that. That's what I would suggest. You already know all the notes and you have the skills in your fingers. Now just, don't like to me, it would take way less time to probably write something than it would be to learn someone else's stuff. That's how I feel about it. What do you guys think? What do you think? I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, Javier? I'm curious. I'll grab that other super chat there in a minute. Interested in the 2 notes reload, but I'm a little torn about the lack of speaker simulation. Should I just do it in the DAW and be done with it? Yeah. I mean, if you have a DAW and you're going to be recording anyway, it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, their own program works great. It's probably easier to do in the DAW than it would be on the unit anyway, unless you're like, as far as getting in and fine tuning and stuff like that. In the DAW, you can just make presets of your favorite cabs and setups and stuff, and boom, away you go. And it's great. Do I wish it had it? Yes, I do. I think that I would like it to be just like on the captor that they made, and I don't know if they still make, I think they do, but on this guy, you've got your preset there this is the little Captor X special edition one they made, 6 different setups, that kind of represent a thing that you like. This is basically 6 different speaker simulations that you can store on the box and take it with you, so that when you're using it, you can go to a session and have 6 different cab and mic setups. So if it was just that, I think it would be great. I don't think they need more than that, really. You could have your green back cabinet, your open back, something for bass, whatever. I mean, and that's all you need, So I do wish it had that. I do. But having said that, man, they really got everything else right. It's really, really good, for what it is. Has somebody put it all together yet? No. And that's, something that has to happen, where it's all got to be in there to be the be all end all load reamp speaker simulation direct solution. But they're very, very close, and it's a great piece of gear. It's the only one that I know that'll do a stereo reamp, stereo loop thing. So if you want to go stereo,
You know, it really will transform your Marshall Plexi or whatever, you know, into something that's very giggable and usable in ways that it just expands exponentially. You know, the way you can use your amps. So pretty cool. This fella here, Troll, says Duncan similar to Tone Zone for what? Why not just use the Tone Zone? Yeah, I probably would. I mean, if that's what you want, you know, just go for the Tone Zone. Agreed. Does anyone else have problems with 1/8" MIDI breaking? I've had the MIDI in break twice in my VP4. Ooh. Yeah, that's the only thing about it is a little, you know. Let me take a look at the VP4. Because I have it here. What did I do with it? It's around here somewhere. Where they put it, I assume it's just on the back, right? Yeah. So, and not only that, you know, you got the power right beside that too, the little, you know, power jack for the, and so I would suggest building on a pedal board, maybe a little protective something over that, whether it's a shelf with other stuff on it or, you know, and keep it from any kind of, excuse me. But yeah, I've had a little bit of problem with 1/8" MIDI on my Boss EVH pedal, although it wasn't the jack itself, it was the cable. So I'm just looking here now. I ordered some off of, when I was on tour, I ordered some off of Amazon and ended up replacing what was on my board with just some generic MIDI to 1/8 cables that I got, and that's been working fine. So that's what's on there now, and it's got an angle connector, so you might try an angle connector. Probably be a little safer than a straight coming way out, you know. I could recommend that, but you know, think of something creative to kind of protect those jacks, probably MIDI in and out as well as the power right there. If you're finding you're getting breakage, that means somebody, you know, what is it, getting stepped on or what's happening there? Yeah, think about all that stuff. Jamie says his Destroyer is really light. Yeah, I think Santa's generally is pretty light stuff. You know, it says it's fine grained, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's super strong or heavy. I don't have a perspective on Sen and how it compares to like a hard ash in America is really northern ash or whatever is quite heavy and almost like maple in many ways, you know. And so I don't know if it doesn't strike me that it's like that, but it also doesn't, I don't know if it's as soft as like you know, swamp ash is fairly light and kind of basswood, you know, kind of lighter, softer. So that's just I don't have a perspective on the Sen on how like dent resistance or, you know, strong it is for things like, you know, post sonophoid rows or something like that, you know, which can take some abuse. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see. What's my favorite Ibanez guitar? Well, my Destroyer, of course. You know, for the modern ones, I actually really like Joe's model a lot. It's kind of got a more slightly fuller neck than a lot of Ibanez I've played, which tend to have thinner necks, you know. So I know that's kind of maybe a stereotype of maybe Ibanez's older ones, but Joe's has a really nice neck on it. I find it's just a more similar feeling neck than to what I'm sort of used to. You know, it's almost like kind of like a nice C vintage, you know, 60s sort of feeling thing to me. Yeah. Yeah. And what else we got here? Let's see. 2 notes reload to Fryette or Sir, which sounds the best. For 8 ohm, I felt Sir was the very slight champ before Reload 2, which I haven't tried. The Reload 2 is incredibly transparent. The Sir is very, very transparent as well. If we're just talking about, it sounds like you want to know about the load. The Fryette, really, really good. You know, I've seen the curves for the Fryette and the Sir. I haven't seen the curve for the Reload, but all I know with the Reload is like, even just listen to my video I put up of it. It's incredibly transparent reamping through it with, you know,
it's almost like it's not there. Whatever they've done to voice the load as well as the reamp, very, very, very transparent. So that's the thing that matters to me the most. But the good news is all these devices that you've mentioned here are really good load boxes. So everything here, I think I would trust, because generally when I hear the load and I'm comparing it to a cabinet, I'm hearing, I can tell like when it's not quite like a cab. I'll hear the differences in the load, and then you look at the load and you go, oh, of course it's like this. It's not quite mimicking an actual cabinet impedance curve. But I would say that they've kind of nailed it, and Celestion did it. And I know Celestion is also a big fan of the SIR reactive load. So, those guys know what goes into an impedance curve and into a good reactive load, I would say, as well. So they've got people that have been working on this stuff for their impulse responses and whatnot for quite a while now. So, because the load was done by Celestion, I think that that's a pretty good endorsement from them, as well as just involvement in the project. Anyway, I love the reload too. I used it this week just as a power amp as well, I should mention, with that gig I mentioned that I did on Monday night. Took it and used it with the Quad Cortex, just mono, one side of the power amp into a rented Marshall 412, and then I had IRs running to the house. One thing I should mention to you guys, just a little tip. When you run something like a Quad Cortex or say an Axifex or something, and if you run a split path with like a cabinet, a real cabinet on stage for some guitar cab feel, and then you also go to the monitors and front of house, if you've got a wedge and if you've got a cabinet, always go between them and stand kind of in the middle of them and move around a little bit and listen to the phase, because you're going to find that many times you've got to flip the phase on the monitor desk. There's different ways you can do it and different places you can do it. I always get the monitor engineer to do it. So I'll say, hey, in the wedge, the two input channels you've got coming from my Quad Cortex, just flip the phase on both channels. And I'll stand in the middle and listen. And you'll notice it'll either be better or worse, fuller and more normal sounding. So moving between the cabinet, that's kind of, downstage or what's that called? Upstage? Downstage. Upstage is towards the front, right? Downstage. Moving from the cabinet forward to your wedge, and just listen to if there's a hollow sound in the middle where it gets thinner. And if it does, have the monitor engineer flip the phase not on the whole wedge, but on the inputs coming from your modeler. Those channels into the monitor desk, they'll have a phase flip for each channel. And then to listen again, and I had to do that this week. Sound much better then, because you don't want to spend the gig kind of, in one spot where it's really comfortable to stand on stage, but like, it sounds kind of shitty here. And then you move forward and it's like, oh, that's better. Oh, it's better back here, but in the middle it sucks. And spend a lot of time kind of in the middle of the stage. I do, and I want it to be as fat as possible there. And if there's a phase issue, it's yeah, okay. This is stuff bass players have to do a lot if they know anything. Bass players are knuckleheads. No, if most bass players know they've got their amp on stage and then they've got a DI, and if they've got a wedge and any of their bass from the DI, or even if it's a microphone on the cab, in the wedge, many times you'll see bass players ask them to flip the phase to listen, or maybe they're using a DI that's got a phase flip on it and they can flip it there. Because bass players have a kind of a nightmare with this stuff, because also the sound in the house and the low end and stuff of the PA and of the subs under the stage as they're playing bass, because phase affects bass like crazy. So if you're listening to the bass from all these different, the amp and the wedge and the PA and the subs and it's getting everywhere, it can be a nightmare for bass players to be in phase everywhere. And many times they'll move around. They're like, I can't really hear what I'm doing, So in some ways, in-ears is like a great thing for bass players, because at least it's consistently right here. They've got that, whereas, days of yore, you'd be trying to balance what's coming out of the PA with the wedges and side fills and amp, and nightmare for phase sometimes. Oh, ho. How can we do wet, dry, wet with the reload too? Pretty easy, really. you can simply, it's got, if it depends if you want to have a total dry, like dry cab and then only effects. You can switch the effect loop to do that on the reload to kind of compensate for that, or you can have dry and wet mixed in. But anyway, what you're going to want to do is take a line out box of some sort. I always suggest it comes up a lot, so I've got my line out box. That's not it. Somewhere I've got my Sir line out box. Oh, there it is. Box like this. It's got 2 jacks in the top, so you run your output of your amp into here. Sorry, 1 jack in the top. Out in the bottom is the jack. So output of your amp goes into here, and then this is just a speaker through. You'll take the other one, go out to your cabinet, your dry cabinet, and then this line out right here, you take that and run it into your effect or into a mixer. But let's just say into your you could take it and run it right into the line input. If we're going to use the Reload 2, you'd take this jack, run it into the line input of a Reload 2 on one channel, and then you take the effects send on the Reload 2 out to your effects, stereo returns back to the stereo returns, and then pull up the power amps and just plug it into 2 cabinets, right? So you're tapping the signal off your amplifier, sending a through signal through to the cabinet, tapping that signal, going out to the reload. Now you're going to have the ability to just, if you did nothing, you could just, like, if you didn't patch in any effects, you'd simply just have the reload's power amp. You'd turn it up, and the other, you could have 2 112s or 2 other 412s, and you'd have, your main head plus or amp or whatever, and then plus 2 more cabinets going. Then you just insert effects in the loop of the reload and blend in effects, wet, dry, wet. Technically, mix, dry, mix, if you do it like the Eddie Van Halen or Steve Stevens way, where you've got dry in the outside cabs too, but some stereo effects. That's the way I used to do it too. Never just effects in the outside cabs. Always an equal amount of dry. But hopefully that makes sense. It's fairly easy to do, Yeah. Did a speaker shootout yesterday. I'm looking for one to pair with a V30 in my Bogner 212. My fave is a 90s 25-watt greenback in my matchless, but the ohms don't match. The new greenback in my Bogner sounds way different. I mean, you could do a search for that particular type of greenback, but it could just be the wear on that speaker and stuff, the old greenback. It's hard to say. I mean, that's it. This is, you like something old and you like that particular one. What are you going to do? You got to either look for another one or take the one out of your matchless and, don't have a great suggestion, Matthew, other than try and find an old one, just go on a hunt for 90s English made greenbacks or something. Craigslist and Reverb and all the usual suspects. Maybe you could find a 90s cab that has some in it, cab that was sold in the 1960 AX cab or something that's got 4 or something like that. Let's see. Am I crazy? Thanks for the super chat, Matthew. Appreciate it. Am I crazy, or is there an issue with the Friedman IR series with the low output pickups on unwound strings? That's a pretty specific Friedman IR series with the low output pickups on unwound strings. What's the issue that you hear? Nothing that I've noticed, but give us a little more info about what you're hearing. Maybe it's something else, something to do with your particular guitar or something. Let's see. I have a V30 with Greenback 65 in my 212. Great combo. That'd be a good, maybe try that, Colin. Sorry, not Colin. Maybe try that, Matthew. A Creamback 65. Might be a little more closer to the efficiency too of the I'm not sure about that, but the efficiency of the V30, and it'll give you a higher power handling overall, which is a good thing. It's greenbacky, for sure. A Creamback M. I would think that'd be a pretty good blend of V30 and a creamback M. Yeah. SD Custom 5 SH14 is a 14.1K Alnico 5. That would be a close match in the bridge. Custom 5 is a custom, but with an Alnico magnet. So that pickup originally, the custom was kind of, I think, Seymour Duncan's super distortion, close to a super distortion, because it had a Alnico magnet. But we're sort of, at least the ohms were kind of far off from. I know this is a previous question. Somebody was asking about a DiMarzio tone zone and what's the closest Seymour Duncan. I don't know how similar. You just have to try them and see if you like the sound, I think, basically. Yeah. If I was looking for something like a tone zone, but I wanted something different about it, and I wanted to try something else, I would probably be apt to go to, I work with Sir, so I would ask them. But for folks out there like that, as far as like access to a pickup that maybe like Pariah, would be like apt to or willing to want to experiment, be like their version of something like that, might be an interesting thing to tackle, especially since Pariah actually, they kind of do the Van Halen pickup thing, and they've got something for everything. Maybe they have a version already that's kind of their version of what's in the EVH Music Man, which is supposed to be similar to the Tone Zone. I think similar. I didn't say the same, Larry. I said similar. Let's see, Pariah pickups. I'd be interested to see, because they've got their Pasadena series white and their Pasadena series black and all the different pickups. But do they have something that's sort of similar to you know what I'm getting at, the Music Man guitar stuff thing that's going on? That's a good question. Humbuckers, shop now. Vintage, modern, extremist, Pasadena series. So in the Pasadena series, Pasadena white, that's their Alnico 2 9K. Pasadena black is their 14.5 Alnico. So kind of more similar to, similar to what's going on in a, is that like Wolfgang pickup or Frankenstein? Pasadena red, what's going on there? That's a 14.5K Alnico 2. It's got a little boost in the upper mids, it says, without making it fizzy. And then they got the Frankenset pickup, which has a red one, as well as the aged Pasadena series black. That's kind of cool. 1986. Designed to celebrate its namesake vintage. What does it do? Let's see. Power up from its siblings without sacrificing character. What's the spec? It's Alnico 15.6. Alnico 5. Okay, so maybe the 86, because that's you were getting kind of close there, at least on the DC resistance. Alnico 5, 15.6K. That might be one to look at. That little hunt I just went on wasn't all for naught. We arrived at a pickup that's pretty close. Okay. We are in the golden age, says Johnny, of guitar making. Entry-level guitars, 400 to 500, surprisingly good. I agree. Yeah, Yamaha Rev Store. Yamaha does great work, 100%. Good guitars for the money, absolutely. Yeah. The mark of a great guitar is one I don't have to think about when I'm performing. That's almost a mark of a great musician, too. Like, I was thinking about that with Josh Freese this week. It's like, I had to remind myself I was playing with Josh Freese. He's like the best drummer, man. And he's back there doing his thing, and I thought of it on the third or fourth song. I was like, that's freaking Josh Freese back there, and I hadn't really thought about him until that moment. just playing the songs, concentrating. I've never played with these guys, so it was new, and but I was like, and then I try to go be present and remember how fun this is with this guy right now, because you don't get to do that every day. And he was so great. The feel is like, what I mean by you don't think about them is that you're just in the music, and you're not trying to go, well, I'm trying to make this feel good. Like, where's the place in the kick drum? And you never think of that stuff. You're always just like playing. The tempo's right. It's never like, oh, I wish it was a little faster, or the feel is not quite for this, and I think about those things a lot of the time, when I'm playing. I mean, get a chance to play with tons of great musicians and drummers, especially, but you guys know what I mean if you've gigged, and then you play with somebody where it just sits, and it's like, oh God, that feels so good. It's so much fun. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah. Troll says there's a video of Satch shredding on a Squire on YouTube. That's a great. He plays Satch Boogie, right, on the Squire, and it's really cool. Yeah. Yeah. Does the Sir Silent circuit make their guitars a bit heavier? Yeah, it adds a hair weight for sure. If you get the SSC2 in there, it's a little bit of weight for sure. Not a ton, but add anything and it's gonna add some weight. Yeah. 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 Okay, what else we got here? What overdrive pedal would you recommend for playing through a 64 Princeton? I know it's kind of cliche, but anything screamerish kind of tends to work well with the Fenders because they kind of have a more scoopy sound. Combos always sound a little more MIDI. So if you ran a Princeton into a closed cabinet, it would probably be like lots of bass and just top end, but with this hole in the mids. But the combo does tend to compensate a little bit. So, but yeah, long story short, there's a reason why screamers and Fenders seem to work well together. Just the mid range kind of evens it out and does a cool thing. But this, I'm really enjoying this little guy right now. The Dirty Boy. This is a really, really fun pedal. So if you want your Princeton to just kind of be a rock machine, try this thing. It's really great. Super fun. Super fun. But I got all kinds of, geez, so many. I'm trying this today. So the Kaluna from Valbrook. Yeah. Arthur says I wouldn't cut him any slack. This is the guy that was stealing the tunes from people. Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. It's just kind of like, it is crappy. I mean, there ain't no doubt about it. Adam Neely just did a great video on the history of fake performances, almost an hour long, well worth watching. I want to see that. Adam's great, man. That guy is so smart and just kind of on it. Part of, actually kind of missing it now a little bit because we haven't done a lot of this, or at least I haven't been a part of it, but the kind of meetings of YouTubers that was happening in the last decade, like around 2017, 18, 19, where we would all get together and go to Germany or to, meet up at Toman or these different events. I actually really missed that. I liked those people like Mary Spender and Adam Neely and the whole cast of characters that I got to meet and make friends with. Paul Davids, and they're all really, really great people, really smart, driven people that are essentially running small businesses and approaching it in their own way. And there's something to be learned from all of them. Rick Beato, and in a time where there's a lot of grumbling about the music business and issues and and there's a lot of problems. I'm not saying there's not, there is, Spotify. I say, so somebody says Spotify is essentially like they've just sort of normalized it on a massive scale. Hey, it'll be good exposure. That's Spotify. Hey, do you want to play at my bar? Oh, we can't pay, but it's good exposure. That's Spotify on the entire music industry level, right? So in a time where there's issues like that, it was great to get together with some folks that were making it work and figure out ways to make it work for themselves, you know, via YouTube or via social media, you know. So the YouTube community, it's a special kind of group of people. It kind of felt like getting together with those folks, like getting together with a group of musicians, but in a different way. So almost like when you meet up in a band to play a gig, or meet up in the studio to make a record with people, and there's this lots of creative energy going on and stuff. It felt like that, but instead we're mixing music with also YouTube and social media and stuff, and how everybody was approaching it, and they all had great ideas, and it was like, oh, this is so fun and positive and kind of forward thinking, as opposed to just the kind of like, so hard, man, I can't sell my record anymore. It's like, yeah, that's true, but there's other ways and opportunities out there, and if you just kind of can see it, you can make inroads in ways that maybe you never could. It's like Rick Beato, when I met him the first time. At the time, he was 55 years old, and he said, I never thought anybody would want to watch, you know, I didn't think anybody's going to watch a guy with white hair talking about music on, you know, older guy, not an old guy, but you know what I mean? He said it, I didn't, so it's okay to say, but he was saying, you know, he's kind of found this second career, and who would have thought that, you know, in maybe 2010 or something, that would even be possible, but to have maybe your greatest success and really find your way when you're 55, you know, going, is a beautiful thing, right? And so powerful. So kudos to him for the hard work and everything he's done. I should say, I want to give props right now. Britt's heading out on tour tomorrow to play drums with this artist that goes by King Mala, and her name is Aurelie, but she goes by King Mala. That's her kind of her, you know, band stage name as an artist, you know, like kind of like Lady Gaga, right? Or you know what I mean? So anyway, she goes by King Mala, and man, I gotta hand it to her. You know, she's like mid-20s now, and she last year she's had some songs out and some singles out and stuff, and she's had some success. She's got a fair amount of followers on Instagram, and you know, I think her YouTube, she might have 80,000 or 80K, something like that. Pretty good for like an artist, you know. That's, you know, she's not a guitar YouTuber, she's a music artist, you know, with 80K followers on. That's cool. I think it's a good, she's definitely established herself. But anyway, she made this record that's kind of a concept record, and they're going out to start tour with anybody out there know Lights? She's a great artist from Canada, great, you know, pop artist. And they're going to start a tour with Lights tomorrow. And there's not a lot of money in the music business now, you know, and especially if you're a young artist. She has a label deal, and you know, some support and stuff, but there's just not, like, you got to find ways to do it, which generally these days is translating to people playing with fewer and fewer musicians on stage. So the tour, they're opening for Lights, you know, so that also, anybody that's open for bands out there knows that, you know, when you're on the opening slot, there ain't a lot of dough there. You're generally kind of going to lose money, and you're going to try and recoup through merch sales and whatever you can do, selling some t-shirts after the gig and stuff. But anyway, a lot of the tour sold out. That's great. There's tons of positive things about the tour, but they have had to figure out how to do it kind of, you know, not on the cheap, but there ain't a lot of budget there, you know. In the show they've put together, it's just Britt and Aurelie, King Mala, you know, performing they're doing the whole new record that she's done. And so obviously there's got to be tracks, because, you know, they've got to play to something, you know, there's got to be other, like, she literally can't afford a whole band right now. So you go out and you do what you can. This has become the norm in the pop world. It is what it is, you know, but she's got Britt up there, live drums. Britt's actually playing a little bit of guitar too. And then she's a great singer. So the two of them, the show they've put together to represent this great record that she's done. I was watching some of the video of rehearsals yesterday, and it's something else, man. And there's these two dudes, producer, musical director guys, that have helped put it together, the visuals as well as, you know, music and everything. These two guys are evidently like 20 years old each. They're kids, you know. And the way that they put the show together, it's mind-blowing, man. The interface, you know, computer that's running some tracks and stuff like that into the interface, and then MIDI'd to Lights, that they've got this light show going that's completely programmed and stuff off of everything. These kids are like 20. When you watch it and hear the way it sounds, and they've done a mix and stuff off a board in rehearsals with her singing and Britt playing the drums and stuff. And it's like, this is kick ass. Like, it's actually like really, really great. And so I got to hand it to them. That's just on the touring level with how good it is and how they're adapting. it's almost like people making records in home studios now, like that, and the quality of like what you can do, sonically and stuff, mixing. And I relate to that because I sit in here and do a lot of my own work. The quality of what you can do is really, really high as the budgets have gone down and as the business has changed. It's just adapting and doing it, going at it a different way. So anyway, her show is going to be amazing for as sort of, tight budget as they've had to do it on. And not only that, the last thing I'll say about it is her record is amazing, man. It sounds like it was produced by friggin' Trent Reznor or something. I mean, it's really cool and creepy. She's had this sort of aesthetic of this kind of horror movie aesthetic going all the way through the project, because it's about possession. The whole record is about, this kind of woman that basically possesses this guy, and it's in a, it's almost like a horror movie kind of concept. And the videos and the images and everything, it's like she just had, she kind of storyboard the video, obviously, and had a look kind of like, what do you call it when you kind of visualize the way you want things to look? So you collect things and put them up on a board, like this is the aesthetic I want, that I'm going for. And she was doing all that all the way through the project, which has been like probably a year and a half of her making this thing. And it's really good. I mean, it's super good. I like Billie Eilish a lot. I'm a fan of her. There's some similarity there in some of the songs and what she does. But imagine a Billie Eilish record produced by Trent Reznor, and that's kind of what it sounds like. It's dark, and it's really, there's definitely kind of like a bit of a industrial sort of leaning stuff to some of the sound. It's pop, but it's not, it's way artistically, there's beautiful strings all over it. Chord progressions and stuff are challenging, the melodies. So check out her record. If you have any, you might be like, man, I don't have any interest in this at all, like what you're talking about. But if you do, this kind of art, I was just looking for my phone and now I can't seem to find it. I know I just had it because I showed you a picture earlier. I put it down somewhere. Do you ever have that where you put things down and then you just, oh, it's right there. Can't see them. It's like my brain doesn't want to see it. I'm just going to get the name of the record here, because if this resonates with anybody out there, check it out. The record is called "And You Who Drowned in the Grief of a Golden Thing." That's the name of the album. That's the cover. Creepy, right? That's her. It's really, really, really good, man. Give it a listen if you looking for something new and it's out there. It's out there now, so I think it's great. All right. That's enough about that. Thanks for listening to my rant. Not a rant, I'm supporting a young artist that deserves to be supported. And it's commendable when somebody puts that much into their art, I think, because it's art, man. It's not like, I don't think she's thinking about hit singles or about, I mean, maybe she is, but it's not that kind of record, It's like, I'm going to do exactly what I want to do kind of record is that's how it strikes me. What do you think of the new Imperial preamp to start bass beside guitar? Maybe loading another IR on channel 1. I would say it'd be pretty good on bass. Channel 1 with, the right impulse response. I mean, not far off from a Fender-y kind of sound. So I think you'd have some success there, like loading up an SVT or 410 or 215 IR or something and experimenting with channel 1. For sure, for an ampish sound. Why the heck not, Yep. Guitar YouTubers often play sound alikes in product demos, but I think that more a functional thing. Yeah, that's different. In a product demo, where people play, like I do it, write an AC/DC-ish song, or I'll even, do a little Van Halen or something. That's paying tribute to something that we know is out. It'd be like if I made a transcription of, a Van Halen song and was like, what we're talking about, that guy again that was like copying things. If you were to transcribe an entire thing and sell the transcription and not name it as a Van Halen song, and also just underneath if you're going to credit, you'd say inspiration to Van Halen. It's like, no, you're playing, Unchained or something. It's you can't really go at it that way, So it's just a little, the thing that's different about it too is that everybody knows that when it's a Van Halen song, these were taking things from, players that had, 200 views on a video or 1,000 views on a video. And then this guy has got a big following and he gets, 90,000 views on his video. And the other video is still out there and it's some poor person somewhere and wherever that was just trying to show off their thing. And then somebody else kind of took it. Yeah. I had this happen to me with something that I wrote into, it was a song off one of my records where what happened? It was almost like I got a copyright strike for my own song and it said it was owned by someone else. I can't remember exactly what happened, but it was a YouTube thing and it was 5 years ago now or something. But anyway, these kids had taken it was literally my track. And then they were saying it was theirs and they were going to release it on a record. They were in Argentina or something. And I hit them up and just personally, I was like, hey, like, what do you think you're doing? Like, this is my song. And not only that, I own the, I sent a, disputed the thing and said, this is my copyright and everything. I can prove it. Like I own this is my track. I have the publishing on it and stuff. But even besides that, I said, wrote these guys directly on, I think I found them. Britt's really good at this stuff. I think she found them on Instagram where they were saying like new song coming out on April 25th or whatever it was, and it literally had my track in a video that they'd made. And I hit them up on Instagram and I was like, hey, this is my song. And, you should take this down and anywhere else that you're sharing it, take it down. And you should say you're sorry. And, if you don't, I'm going to come at you with everything I got just to make a special little project out of you and make an example. So I kind of gave them the chance to just, and they wrote me back and they go, oh, hey, man, we're sorry. We were just trying to give you some exposure. Yeah, sure, dude. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we thought you'd appreciate it. It's like, dude, you were flat out stealing my track and then trying to tell people that it was yours. It was bullshit. But that was even worse because they weren't even re-recording it or doing their own version of my song or covering it or anything like that. They just stole the my song, my mix, and said that they were doing it. So it was stupid. Kids do stupid things. Once again, I had some kind of I was like, yeah, just don't do it again, right? Like I think I wrote them an email like in a dad fashion. It was like, listen, don't go down this path, practice, write your own songs, work hard, work towards something. And, in the end, you'll be glad that you did. Oh my God. All right. Anyway, whoa. Maybe he has some sort of weird savant ability where he has perfect pitch, can instantly play what he hears, but has zero ability to create his own music. That's a thing. I've heard of another guitar player out there that's like that. She can actually copy things, but can't write her own. She can note for note play things that are, virtually identical to the original and just nail it. But has, it's almost like musicians that can read beautifully off the page, but they can't improvise at all. Yeah, it's possible. Did he did all that stuff knowingly until he planned out all for 15 minutes of fame. Now it's an eternity of infamy. Yeah, it's not good, that's for sure. But anyways, do you like your Temple board, says Braxall, or is there something else that's possibly better? I think it's great, man. I've got it sitting right here. I got one sitting down on the ground here. It's sort of plugged in, so I can't really take it apart. But I think the modular aspect of them, easily, they've made it very simple with their, I don't use their way of securing pedals. Maybe I should, but I kind of tend to use dual lock and do it the traditional way on the Tempo boards, which is maybe some people might think that's silly, but it works for me. But you can use their things to fasten pedals and things. It seems to make a lot of sense. There's a lot of accessories made for I think there's even third-party companies now making accessories for Tempo boards, kind of extra things to lock down cables and things. John Button was showing me some things to lock the cables and stuff. That seemed kind of cool. Maybe I should, it's probably worth it since you're asking a question about Temple to find John's text here and see what they are. Okay. Boardmods.net. Board, you can't see that, but boardmods.net has some things. Like plates for the bottom of pedals and things to replace, you know, that are better for redefine your rig. Flat plates, it says here, that's like a plate that obviously goes on the bottom of a Boss pedal. Then they make clean lock plates. So these have like, looks like little screws and nuts that, you know, for the bottom of a temple board, you could put that down and then probably go through the bottom with the screws and lock. And then they make stuff like this. These are those little cable kind of organizers that you can put, you know, I guess you can fasten these guys, this down, and then this clips in and holds the cables down and kind of, so if you want to reconfigure your board a lot, this stuff looks interesting. So a little bit of props there to boardmods.net. Yeah. But then the panels and things that, you know, are available right from Temple to lock, you know, like XLRs or MIDI or quarter inch or TRS or whatever you want on the sides of the board. That's pretty smart. And I love that the boards themselves are so light. They're not the strongest boards in the world. You know, they do flex a little bit and stuff, but that's never been an issue for me. I'm taking one out on the road, you know, to use with Steve and Joe. It's a little sideboard I've got. I had to add a few pedals. I'm using it for my quad Cortex, which I'm using for acoustic as well as for a couple electric interesting sounds and stuff. But I've also got some other pedals on there, clean boost and a couple other things, just for extra stuff if I need it. So it'll be out along with my Friedman board, because one pedal board's not enough. Gotta have two. All right, I'm pretty far behind in the chat here, so I'm gonna try and go quick as I can. Chris Clarkson, what's up, dude? Just returned from 10-day dealer and clinic run. This is my my good friend Chris, and works with me alongside me at SIR. We do clinics together and stuff. We have new places to go when we put the band back together. Once your schedule opens up, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's look at a little bit later in the year. And pretty soon should be able to put some things on the books, Chris. Sounds good. Sounds good. Best switching solution to toggle between an IRD and IRX into the same power amp. I mean, there's a ton of ways to do that. You could use a number of different pedal switchers. I'm a Musicom Lab guy. I've been using them for, you know, something like the Effects 10D, I think it's called, would be fine for that. You could use a couple of the loops for that, as well as add some pedals and things, and be able to switch them in and out. Even post stuff coming post preamp before it hits the power amp, you could have, you know, switcher doing that. So look at that. I use the bigger one, the Effects Mark 6. It's you know, 12 loops and might be more than you need. So look at stuff from Musicom Lab. But you know, the Boss ES series, I think there's an ES 3, 5, and 8, right? You could look at those too. Any of that kind of stuff will work just fine. You know, yeah, no. RJM, shop around and see what works best for you. Yeah. Thanks for taking my question. Thank you, sir. Thank Dave for the super chat. You guys are too kind with your super chats today. I appreciate it. Brian says Pete's got to be the nicest guy in the business. Oh, I don't know. I used to be more grumpy. I've mellowed as I got older. I am seriously. I feel very, very, very thankful to be able to do this and where I am. I really do. I feel gratitude on a daily basis now. It's not like I felt like before at some point, like, well, I deserve this, but I used to be, I don't know. There was probably a time I went through where I guess I was probably more of an asshole. You know, when I look back on it, just be honest about it, you know, where I was, yeah, maybe act a little more entitled. I mean, I always had both my feet on the ground, I think, but now I really feel like, just in life in general, man, I don't know. It's a tough world we live in right now. There's a lot of this animosity and crap, and you know, in the world. And I got to a place where I just felt like, man, I just want to go out and just be nice to people and have it, you know, nothing really matters that much when you look at the grand scheme of things, you know, all our little worries and everything. It's like, you know, so it's just like, just try and be nice to people, everybody you meet every day. And everybody's just trying to do their thing and lead their life and get by and, you know, and make a living and enjoy themselves if they can, hopefully, you know, and just get ahead in the world and do the right thing and all that. So I don't know, whatever. I mean, maybe not everybody, but most people you meet on a daily basis, right, are basically decent and just trying to do their best. So I did hit the point where it's just like, especially be the musician. It's like, we're just musicians here to thin the thickness of your skin. What's that from? Come on, old Canadian rockers. Yeah, you know what I mean. It's like we're not saving. Well, maybe we're saving lives sometimes, but not like a doctor doing brain surgery or something. You know what I mean? It's like we don't. I don't know. Like anybody that's got too big a head about whatever it is that they do, and they're, you know, it's like, oh, you're a singer. Oh my God. That's amazing. Wow. Let me worship at your, you know, it's like, we're just playing songs, you know, let's keep it real. Okay. A friend has an original Phil Collins, Ibanez Destroyer. My friend James used to have one of those. James Tokarski, high school bando, is in. I wonder where he is now. James, what's up if you're out there? Phil Collins, Ibanez Destroyer, the one with 3 pickups. Played it a couple days ago. Phenomenal guitar. They're cool. They get the crazy, I think they have a bound neck, right? And crazy inlays and the 3 cream pickups and everything. Really cool looking. Yeah. I like those too. Love the new Reload 2 load box demo. As someone who does reamping I wonder if your rest of your comment got cut off, if you had a question or something or comment about it. But anyway, thank you. Glad you liked it. I'll look for a second part to your comment. Yeah. Enjoy your videos, says Roundabout. Just recently got a MacBook Pro to use with my Nano Cortex, and I have it connected with USB-C. Notice in Logic Pro, I seem to get a dry signal via USB. That's interesting. Shouldn't be. There's got to be a setting or something. I would suggest, you know, somewhere in Nano Cortex Editor, there's got to be a setting for that. I can imagine that, you know, there's a reason for that you would get a DI via the USB if you want it, but there must be a setting to change that somewhere in settings via, you know, the Cortex Editor or something. It would make sense for doing things like, you know, reamping. You know, like maybe you want to use the Nano Cortex to track, but you want to track a DI that's dry, so then you could reamp later using plugins or something. So it kind of makes sense to me as a feature, but there's got to be a way to say, no, I want the DI to be the you know, the signal coming out of the unit. I haven't experimented with that particular, you know, scenario. So yeah. And you're just saying, new to Logic Pro as well as MacBook, curious if I'm doing something wrong. I would say it's the Cortex, not the, you know, not the, it's a little akin to like in, you know, Logic, if you plug right into, there's a way to bypass, that's kind of different. Sorry, I was going to go off on a tangent there about the recorder monitor setting in UA console, where you can monitor through plugins and hear like a guitar amp sound, but you're actually only recording the DI for later use. But it sort of applies. It's kind of a similar thing. That's kind of what I think they're trying to do with that. There's got to be a way to switch it so that you can record the actual amp sounds and IRs and all that. Thank you for your great advice, says Paul. Thanks. Appreciate that. And thanks for the super chat. Here's another one from Jose. Sorry, Pete, I'm just a nerd. Hey, don't apologize. Me too. Can you speak on the SLO vibe versus the JEL vibe? Looking into both. JEL is great Marshall, you know, with more gain. Kind of an 800 with optimized more gain, a little less flub kind of vibe, with also the plexi sort of sound, you know, in there. If you want it, it's there. SLO is more. SLO to me is always more modern. By modern, I mean late 80s into the 90s. Very big full grain distortion, big full, you know, it's not exactly a Marshall, but it's a neat sort of cousin of that sound. It's a little more big grindy. Marshall's got a little bit more of that, still just classic Marshall Kerrang. Big grindy versus classic Kerrang, I would say. Classic Kerrang. Does that make sense? It's like the quality of the distortion and also the, you know, just that kind of upper mid Marshall thing versus the SLO's big sort of more full range thing, but really fun. Like I like SLOs. Not everybody does. A lot of people do, but I'm a fan of that sound in addition to the Marshall sound. I think the Marshall is where I live most of the time, but I do enjoy these other sounds sometimes, like the 2C plus up there. I enjoy that sound too, which is way more based on a Fender kind of thing. You know, but it's its own thing, and it's kind of it's familiar to me because I used it for a while, way back when I was a kid. And it's a neat color, you know, and the SLO is a cool color for sure. And a neat, you know, it could be your main thing. It's just not exactly Marshall. I think when they first came out, it was like Eddie started using them and stuff. And it was like, oh, this is a nice alternative to Marshall, because maybe you're so used to that sound, you know, all those years of plexi or whatever, and then fighting, you know, just trying to get a little more gain and keep it tight and control the volume. And then the SLO comes along as one of the first amps that had that much gain that was controllable with a master. And it's like, oh, this is great, you know. But then over time, you learn the charms of the Marshall too. It's like, oh, they're not exactly the same, you know, both great. So, yeah, I hope that's somewhat helpful without getting to try them both. I'll put it this way. Warren DeMartini went to SLO, you know, at some point, and he's, of course, classic Marshall user, still uses both. Got a couple great old Marshalls that are his main vibe, got a SLO, uses them both. Depends what he feels like at that particular time, what he wants to do. Does running devices like the HXFC, is that this HX Fook? Oh, is that like you're talking about the Line 6 HX effects, I think, right? And VP4 4 cable method always induce more hiss. Yes, generally speaking, you're always going to get a little more, especially if you're high gain. You know, I'm kind of assuming you're probably running into some gain if you're finding that. A to D conversion, just even the really, really, really good ones always induce a little bit of hiss. You know, you find it with Eventide pedals and stuff too. Going into gain, there's always a little bit bump in the noise floor whenever you're incorporating anything digital like that. Digital wireless does it too. I mean, I've got a $4,000 or whatever it is, sure, you know, Axient best wireless. You can get a little higher noise floor with the wireless. It's just part of the nature of the beast. But it's never enough that it bothers me that much. I mean, it's like, you know, it is there, and when you notice it's gone, when you take that device out of line, you're like, oh, be nice if it was like that. But then you sort of forget about it, and certainly once the band kicks in and there's cymbals and the singer, you don't hear it, right? Is that like a Switchblade switcher or Y box with a button? What's that? Are you asking about the Y box with a button? Are you asking about, was this the question about the pedals? Sorry, I forget, the Friedman pedals. Switchblade has been used for a couple different products, so not. I think wasn't a Switchblade the radial that would go between two amps? You don't need something that sophisticated to switch between pedals. I hope I'm not mixing up chats here, but I think you're talking about the same thing that I'm thinking of, which was the two Friedman pedals and switching them into a power amp. Don't need something like a Switchblade, which actually handles speaker level stuff. You just need a pedal switcher like an ES3, ES8, ES5. FX 10D from Musicom Lab, something along those lines. Yeah. I think that Andy Wood on YouTube did a wet dry wet under 1200 with 2 notes and Boss delay thinger. There's a number of different ways to do wet dry wet. I mean, under $1,200, I mean, you could use a line out box and a couple of Seymour Duncan power stage power amps or the stereo one, and you'd be in well under $1,200. Not, got to still add the processor. But anyway, yeah. SD 3000 EVH will actually do wet, dry, wet on its own with no other mixer and stuff, but you can't really incorporate other stuff that easily. You sort of just have to use the SD. But if you just want some delay, and that's it, you want a little bit of that wet, dry, wet color, you can do it with the SD. That they designed it into the unit. It's all in my video for the SD 3000. I show you how to do it. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to move down in the chat here. Hit the super chat. We got to get a little lower. What time is it? 1:23. I'm going to be here for another half hour or so, folks. Should I say Nigel Duffel? Everybody says my hair is Nigel Duffel. My hair is straight out of 1973, which was way pre-Nigel Duffel. But he was going for that thing too. So there you go. Yeah. I've never. Is there commentary that you can? Is it like the actors talking about their performances or something? It sounds interesting. I want to see the new Spinal Tap. When's that come out? It's supposed to be soon. Okay. A good other than Tone Zone would also be Sir SSH Plus. Yes, I actually suggested that when we started talking about it, because it's 17K and A5, similar. At least on paper. They might sound totally different because of other factors, So it just depends. I have a question for you about your backstory. Did you know that? Did you know in your heart you had what it took to walk on stage with Chris Cornell? Oh, well, yeah. I mean, maybe that was part of my cockiness back in the day that I was talking about a little earlier. Not that I was cocky, but walking on stage with anybody, man. I mean, it's all about preparing. And if you just prepare like hard, then you fall back on that preparation because it's in there. And it to a certain point, we're not talking about improv jazz here. We're talking about making rock music or pop music or country music, which is all things that you can learn to do, So it's like I'm talking about learning other people's music, not being creative and writing my own, in this moment. I'm talking about the job of being a sideman and going on stage with somebody like Don Henley or Chris Cornell. Did I know I could do it? I just told myself from day one, when I was 14, I can remember watching people on TV and playing guitar and going, well, all I have to do is do that. Like, if I can do what they're doing, then I can stand up there and do that too. And it was a very naive but pure childlike thought. If I can learn to do that like they're doing it right now, then someday I can do that too. And that's always how I approached it. So, Don Henley was my first exposure to, that was the high pressure, the Don Henley audition I did, not when I actually got the gig, but the first time I auditioned for Don was in the year 2000. I was about 29 or 8 years old. And I'd never done anything on that level. I'd done some things. I'd toured and played with people by that point. I'd made a record and had, I'd been in 3 signed bands by that point and stuff like that. But I'd never played with somebody that was that revered and on that level. And I knew that the pressure was going to be on a different level. And that he was also notorious for wanting things to be just so. So I, at that point, really started developing my audition technique, let's say. Or philosophy, which was, I want to be as comfortable as possible in this audition because I know it's going to be somewhat nerve-wracking. So I'm going to practice and prepare just like it's going to be there. So I would stand up, for instance. Once I'd learned the material and got it under my fingers, I would stand up and play. I would practice standing up and try and have, if possible, have things turned up a little bit so that you can feel sort of what it's like to feel and stand there and play. It's a different sensation than sitting in a chair and doing it with everything controlled and, nice headphones on or something. It's not like that. So I wanted to recreate that as much as possible. So I just played the parts over and over and over and over and over and over for as much time as I could leading up to the auditions. And that's how I went in and auditioned for Don Henley. Now, that when I first auditioned for Don, the day before I went down and played, I found out that Brett Tuggle, Matt Bissonette, and Greg Bissonette had been in auditioning. I'm not sure who had played guitar that day, but I knew that Greg was there and that Matt was there. And I thought, I saw those guys play in 1985 with David Lee Roth when I was like, 13 or 14 or whatever. And here I am 15 years later. I thought, I'm not on that level with those guys. This is the voice in my head, like the little, your fear. I'm not on that level with those guys. Like, those guys are legends. Like, who do I think I am going in and trying to do this, But I'd prepared so hard that I just shut that voice up, and something just made me go down and just do it, And then the next day I was standing in there, and I had my friends around me, which was helpful too, because I was able to take in a group of musicians. They said, if you know some more people that want to come in, Don's hiring a whole band, so bring drums and bass and keys. So I put together a group of guys, and we rehearsed actually in a rehearsal studio together and played through the material at least once, if not twice, and then went down to do our audition. So I had my friends there, and that was helpful in that moment too, because I knew the guys and we'd played through the songs. But I had, 2 wedges, Clare Brothers wedges, like 1,000 watts of wedges in front of me. And we kicked into Dirty Laundry, man. He called that first, which was 2 solos for me. The first one, Joe Walsh, and the second one, Steve Lukather. Right. And Frank Symes, the other, guitar player that actually called me to come in and do the audition initially. Thank you, Frank. One of my mentors said, you take both solos. Don's going to want to see you play. So I took both solos. That was the first song we played. Set up my stuff, went into Dirty Laundry, and there, and I'm just standing there going, there he is, and it sounds amazing, the mix, and here we go. Oh my God, and then I went into it and I played, and I guess I played pretty good. And that was me falling back on my prep, like I played the song, I don't know how many hundreds of times by that point. I just went over and over and over and over and over and over and over so that I could just play it. It was in my bones. Whether or not I was nervous, it was like my hands just went there, like the muscle memory or whatever. And we got through that tune, and then we went to the next tune, then we went to the next tune, we went to the next tune, and we did the whole 9 songs that he'd, specified to learn for the audition. And as I was leaving that day, I packed up. I was nervous as hell, but I was trying to be as comfortable as I could. And when he would talk to me, I'd try and be not freaked out, throw up like Kyle or whatever in South Park. And because that, I didn't have experience with a person like that yet in my life. Got in the car and drove away, and my cell phone rang, and I picked up the call, and it was Tony, his assistant. And he said to me, hey, Don wants you to come back and play again next Tuesday, next week. So it was a week from that day. So, I'll send you more details, but he, it's a good day, and he liked what you did. He wants to listen to you again. That was my moment where the whole world opened up in that moment, where I went like, if I can just that, I didn't end up getting it ultimately. I did the callback, which went really well. I did another callback after that, which went really well. And he ended up hiring Peter Stroud, which I would have done as well. He made the right decision. But I got a really nice letter from him after that whole month long of auditioning ordeal that that said, you were my second choice. I went with Peter, but it was very kind. He was just like, you did a great job, and maybe we'll work together down the road, which ended up happening. 9 years later, I ended up going back and getting the gig and playing with him for 6 years. But it was in the moment after the first audition that the whole world opened up for me, where I thought, I can hang. Because this guy who, you shouldn't look for validation from people necessarily, but there's moments where when something goes your way, where you're like, I don't know if I have what it takes. All I can do is go on my gut instinct about what I should, and take advice from people. But all I can do is at some point as an adult is try and do my best. And I'll know when I'm doing my best, or if I phoned it in, and I would try and just push it to the point where I was taking it to the wall, as far as as far as I could go, because I knew I wasn't going to be happy with myself if I failed myself. I'd have only myself to blame. And that was the moment where I got my validation, where it was like, not even really from Don, but just from the universe, that it's like, you know how to do this. You're on the right path. You can hang, in a room where, Greg Bissonette and Brett Tuggle and these guys that had been legends in the business, played with the top people, could hang. And everything beyond that, I thought, if I can do this audition, I can do anything, because Don was the legendary, sort of stickler that wanted things just so. People go, oh, whenever I talk about Don, people go, oh my God, what's that like playing with Don? What's, because for me, Don just wanted things just so. That's all he wanted. You just had to learn. You just had to do the work, and if you did the work, everything was fine. He wouldn't, if he'd, it wouldn't be like hugs and whatever after the show and like whatever, but you'd get a good show, boys, and then he'd go, and then you did continue. And as long as you just did your job, everything was fine, and so that's that story. It's a really, really long story, I know, but I feel like it's one of the most important things that I could ever relate to anybody out there trying to do this thing, is that story, and just kind of say that this is how I did it. And I don't know if there's probably other ways, but that worked for me. And then to get that thing. So 7 years later, Chris Cornell, and when the audition came up and I had 12 hours to learn the songs, I just did the work. I did the same thing. I better work for the next 7 hours. So, I did 3.5 hours of work till 4 a.m, and then I went to bed for 3 hours, and I woke up at 7 and went back to work until 11 o'clock. And then I packed my gear in the car for the 12 o'clock audition and went down, and I played, 5 songs or 4 songs or whatever it was that I didn't know 12 hours before that. And that got me a call back and got me another call back. And then I got the gig. And, these people are, they do possess a certain thing that is very special, the rock star DNA thing or something that makes them who they are, and to be able to stand up there and do what they do in front of 80,000 people or 5,000 people or 500 people or whatever, but it doesn't matter. It's like they command the room and hold people in the palm of their hand. That thing is a special thing that those people have, but they're also just human beings, and if you just do the work and show that you're willing to take it to the wall as far as the work goes and put it first, they can sense that. And then that's what it takes. You're saying had what it took to walk on stage with Chris Cornell. That's what it takes. Is you just have to be that devoted to it, and then you can do it too. That's it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm looking through the chat here. Wolf Van Halen video, definitely take on Michael Jackson's Thriller. He has Danny Trejo in it / Robert Rodriguez directed. It's great. I really enjoyed it. Awesome video. Danny's awesome as well. I love that dude. Cool cat. So very cool. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. Do you still like your tempo board? Oh, I already did that. Already did that. Here's some super chats. Have you demoed or played a Bogner snorkeler? Yes. Not like a Bogner one, but that mod, I've heard a couple different versions of it, and it is cool. It's a really, really cool sound, the Bogner snorkeler sound. It's very different than most Marshall mods. Has its own thing going on, and it's really cool. For high gain, it's mean. So I like it. That's my only take on that. Lately, haven't been able to tune in live, says More Guitars. But a tip of the hat to you. You might not realize it, but you keep this crazy cyber world fun and supportive. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, we can use it for good. It's a power for good. It's a vehicle. It's a vessel for good. Ha! Oh, brother. What else we got here? What's my favorite Steely Dan song? I don't know. I mean, I'm not like a super deep Steely Dan fan, but when I think of I don't know, like Hey 19's pretty awesome. It's just a vibe, right? I'll pick that one right now. That's what's coming to mind right now. For live, going to VP4 route with my Astro, says Steven. However, the Boss MS3 may be all I need for a few effects. Yeah, it could be. MS3 is now about 9 years old. Any experience with it? Only to sort of play with it a little bit. I've never had one and used it, but I've seen them on boards and messed around. Oh, that's how you do that. You know, that kind of thing. Pretty cool, man. I mean, might be all you need for sure for simple stuff. You know, they've got great built-in simple effects, so could be all you need. Let's see. Been learning a lot of note for note solos lately, which I haven't done a ton of. Seems to use a different part of the brain than improvising. Yeah, I would say so. But they definitely cross over because everything that you learn note for note just ends up becoming part of your vocabulary if you play it enough, and then you'll find it coming out in your improvising. So, yeah. Would you consider doing a lesson on the track you played for the Boss EVH pedal? Oh, thanks. I was sort of trying to do a can't get that stuff no more vibe, you know, without copying like the guy we were talking earlier about. But that was my vibe, was that like, because I love that those two Van Halen tracks, like from the mid 90s, were so, it was like, what could have been, you know, had they just made another full record. So at that point, so I love that vibe. But anyway, lots of triads and with a pedal underneath. That's my lesson. That's my quick version of the lesson, you know. If you just sort of pedal on the A string and then play triad chords on top and all different inversions and stuff, you can get some neat stuff going. Yeah, but I'm glad you liked the track. Thanks. I did in the Boss video, actually, I did 2 other tracks, like the Boss video where it's kind of like the release of the pedal. I there's actually 2 other songs in that are similar. So I did 3 full tracks that actually sort of have that vibe. If you get a chance, you might, you know, it'd be easy to miss because they're like buried underneath the kind of a lot of talking and stuff in the video, but they pop up every now and then, the other ones. And I should just release them at some point, I guess, sort of, you know, in the style of Van Halen. Yeah. Pete's a real troublemaking punkin person. That's me, right? You know it, Arthur. Yeah. 40 great. You're always really cool to me when I was at Sir. Still loving your white classic. Oh, thanks, man. I mean, I appreciate Sir's such a top-down family affair, you know, that everybody there is working towards the same thing, including me. I'm just a cog in that wheel of, you know, everybody kind of appreciating the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. What else we got here? What's the best pedal to use in Ampero 2 through a cab, since I want a cab on stage? Best pedal to use Ampero through? You mean like a pedal power? I think you're looking for a power amp, right? It sort of sounds like there's a number of them out there. The best thing I found recently was I love the sound of the power in my Reload 2. I was going to suggest to them to just make it as a aftermarket power amp, but like, or whatever, standalone, I should say, power amp without the load or anything, because it'd actually be useful for some people. But you know, you got the pedal Baby from, is that what it's called? From Orange. You know, Seymour Duncan, Power Stage, there's some different ones out there. Favorite sounding one though has been the Reload. Sounds great for reamp. So if you need a reamp too, and you don't mind carrying it around for, you know, for other things. All right. Let's see. I feel like SLO is similar to what Jakey Lee's tone leaned up on, just big crunchy, but the notes and overall tones are transparent. Jake kind of, to me, sounds more lower gain and raw to me. So a lot of the time, like, you know, Marshalls, you know, sometimes boosted with but you know, always pretty raw, and even borderline. Sometimes it almost like fuzz, you know, at times, like very vintage sounding. Less SLO sounds more modern to me. Jake sounded more like loud ass amps, you know, like, you know, I don't know. Yeah, you know what I mean? Just more vintage. Have a coffee on me. Thank you, Lee. Thanks for making my Sunday a little bit more bearable. Back to my slave to the grind tomorrow. Well, we all got to do it. Do the best you can out there, my friend. And I'm glad you're here. Thanks for the super chat. I do appreciate it. You guys are too kind. Too kind. Ray said, and you have an inspiring philosophy about being a musician. It reminds me of Don Mock. Oh, I remember Don. Approach about the art of music. He was a musical craftsman, similar philosophies. I remember Don. Was there an MI connection? I think there was, wasn't there? With Don Mock. Pretty sure. But anyways, looking for a new 212 cab, PT15 versus a horizontal 212. Well, I have a horizontal too. The PT15 212 is a little bit more based off the Marshall that they, the little Marshall 212 that they used for the 2061X and amps like that. It's more shaped like a 412 and has that cool look and sounds really cool. The other one is the one I would choose as a more sort of like all-around option. It's bigger. It's a little bit more on the way to a 412. The depth is such that it's really beefy sounding and everything. So that's our horizontal 212. So there's a couple different ones. Yeah, you want a little more traditional Marshall sort of look vibe. Go with the sort of X or whatever. How would you? Speakers are arrayed like that, and it's a rectangle or square. It's a square. The other one that's a rectangle has the horizontal speakers. More like it's sort of like getting towards a Bogner oversized, but it's not nearly as big. Actually, it's a little smaller than that. So, yeah. Yeah. What else we got here? You must be getting pumped to go on stage with two great players. I am looking forward to the summer. Can't wait. Good times. Ben Tom says Rod Stewart, Jeff Beck, Mick Ronson haircut. 100%. Everybody in 1973. Yeah. Okay. What else we got here? How's the Musicom Lab editor? Pretty good. I wish it does a little bit of two-way talking now, but I wish it did more. And I wish it was like, almost like when you plug in like a line 6 or something, or a any modeler. Generally, they've got it worked out. So you make a change on the editor, it instantly reflects on the unit. They don't quite have that yet. So if you set up a patch in the Musicom Lab, you then need to send it to the unit, and it's a little time consuming. Okay, it's very time consuming in some ways, but I've grown used to it, and it's how I do my, when I'm getting ready for a tour or whatever, I sit there and I do that. I've basically got my H90 and the Musicom hooked up via editors, via USB to my computer editors. And I'm doing all the set programming and everything like that, naming of things and organizing and everything on the computer, and also programming the H90 because everybody knows it's impossible to program on the unit itself. So I do that on the computer too. Everything else I'll do on the board. And I've gotten very used to that. So, but do I wish it was easier? Yes. And maybe he'll get that going. And I've mentioned it to the nice folks at Musicom that, hey, it would be great if this automatically updated everything all the time, if it was in real time. That's a big ask software wise, I guess. It's just a difficult thing to make things do that, but it's obviously possible to do. So yeah, because a lot of units do it. Yeah. If you have a really light fretboard that needs to be stained, then wait to see what comes out. What's this? A Pal Ferro, Moldy Espresso? What are you guys talking? Oh, you guys are talking amongst yourselves. All right, never mind. Sorry. For someone starting out in a cover band, would you suggest a modeler with a powered speaker or something like the PT15 and pedals? You just have to ask yourself what kind of person you are. Like, there's certain people that just don't want to deal with you know, programming and units with menus and things, you know. But if you're a younger player, that's all they've ever grown up on. It's like they're totally comfortable with it. So it depends, you know. Some people are fine with just a few pedals and an amp, and they're like, I just don't want to worry about this stuff. I just want to play guitar. And that kind of person, you have to, if they're like, but should I get a modeler? I'm always like, no. Like, you're the kind of person that just connects more with, you know, hands-on, like simple knobs, don't want to fuss, no muss, you know. It's like, no, not that kind of person. And then other people are like, yeah, I really enjoy it. And I like to get in there and tweak and look at all this cool stuff I can do with plugins in my computer. And it's just like second nature for them. So, and then a lot of people are somewhere in the middle, but you have to just ask yourself what kind of person you are, what's right for you, what the workflow you're going to, and also the job you got to get done. If you're in a band where you got to cover, you know, it needs to sound like a sitar, and then it needs to sound like a bouzouki, and then it needs to, you know, you go straight from that into a Van Halen song, and then right into a nylon string part. It's like you need to have a rig that reflects that. You know, you might end up playing, you know, a Line 6, you know, one of the modeling guitars, or the Roland V guitar or something, you know, in that case, or something that has, or whatever, the guitars that they make that have nylon string sounds in them and things, you know, just to do the job. You know, but if you're just covering Guns N' Roses and Led Zeppelin and Van Halen and AC/DC and, you know, maybe Dire Straits or something, occasionally, you can probably get by with a few pedals and an amp and do a pretty credible job. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Moving down through the chat. Just going to kind of pass a bunch of stuff here. Well, Braxall says, bummed yesterday. I met Greg Koch at the clinic and was talking to him. Going to buy the guitar I used that day. Girl told me to come after the clinic to buy it. She sold it to another. Oh, that's a bummer. But, you know, Greg can make any guitar sound like that. So just get another one. Greg is like one of the best guitar players in America, man. He's amazing. You know, if you watch his demos of my guitars for Wildwood and stuff, it's like, I was like, this should be your signature guitar. He's so amazing. Great show today. When you first auditioned for Hanley, you didn't get the first gig with him. Why did you think the other guy got the gig? Oh, Peter Stroud got the gig. Peter had already toured with Sheryl Crow for a number of years, and he was he's about 10 years older than me. He's just a seasoned pro. He's very relaxed, and he has a, you know, I like, that's why I said I would have given him the gig too. Peter's a sweetheart. Years later, we did a Don Henley gig together where he would have been back in the role that I would have been in. I was the stage right guitar player when I joined. So he did the stage left. He came in and did that. And we did one show. It was a private corporate thing, I think, in San Antonio, Texas. And I played one Don Henley set with Peter, but he was the one that had beat me out for the gig initially. And lovely guy, amazing guitar player. And it was just his experience and confidence, I think, you know, where he came in and at probably about 38 years old or something. And with his touring experience, it was probably like, yeah, this feels like the right move. With me, I think Don was like, he sounds great. He's, you know, knows all the parts. He's a nice guy. He's got it down, but there's just something where I'm just not as confident in him. That's me being honest, because I probably exuded a little bit of nervousness, you know, or a little bit of like, yeah, I want to do that. And then Don's like, so, you know, some of the first stuff they were doing was like television on, you know, big, like probably Austin City Limits or, you know, late night TV or stuff like that. Right. And so it's like, you gotta throw this guy out there, like just hope for the best. Like, I mean, I had shown that I could do it and everything, but he, you know, I knew without it being said what the reason was. And I was like, well, Peter Stroud, he just, you know, if you've seen him play, you know what I mean? He's just confident and got a great thing, and he was the right guy, you know, at that point. 9 years later, when I went back again, it was down to two guys 9 years later when I went back and auditioned, and the other guy was quite competent, I think, that was auditioning, but I was probably the guy then, because this is post Chris Cornell now. Right. So I'd toured with Jewel and Chris Cornell and all kinds of people, Draco Rosa for a number of years, and done all kinds of touring. but yeah, I was coming right off of 300 shows with Chris Cornell, and I just had the kind of 9 years of salt that gives you, you know. And so when I went in and did it that time, I was the guy, and I was, you know, not. Don would be about, he's probably like 63 years old or something like that. I'm 64, and here I am. I was probably 40. The other guy was younger, I think, and it was like, it just made more sense, you know, overall. And God, it felt good to get the gig that day. I remember getting, like, Don told, I didn't have to wait till after I did the audition. This is 2009. Did the audition, and then I got a call back, and I did that. And then after a few songs, Don was like, "All right, you're the guy. Congratulations." You know. And then he said, "Okay, anybody want burgers? Let's get some burgers." And we ordered In-N-Out. And I just was like, it felt so good. It was like sewing up a like a, you know, the one that got away, like a long lost thing that then again ended up coming back around my way, and I was able to do it. I was so proud of myself in that moment, honestly. And it just felt great, you know. It really, really did. So anyways, yeah, there comes, you know, you're not right for everything all the time, you know. So and then sometimes you are. It's the right time, you know. Yeah. And the things that you learn, even when that's not a failure, you know, not getting it. Like the things that I learned were just the thing that I could hang. You know, you don't know if you can hang, like, if until you find out that you can. And that was the moment where on that first audition in 2000, where I got a call back. Just to get a call back was like, oh, like I can actually like, you know, if you're going to listen to like 10 people to 30 people or whatever, and you're one of the ones they call back, you're doing something right, you know. Just to have that little bit of like validation from the universe was special. You have to have little successes, I always say, along the way, you know. Those little successes when you go through some hard times, and you're you know, because I remember also at that particular time living for nothing. I mean, I had no money, like at the point when I was doing that first audition. I like really poor. I remember going to my girlfriend at the time, her grandmother's place for Christmas, because I probably couldn't afford to go home to Canada. And I remember going over there, and she gave me $100 for Christmas, and I was ready to cry. I felt like I needed that. I remember needing that $100 so bad. Like, oh, like, you know, I was just at a very, very difficult, just, you know, in one of those in between times where I didn't have any work, and it was hard. But the Don Henley thing was happening all during that time. So to have the little validation of the callback and stuff, and going, it is possible. You just have to find a way to keep going, because this business can be like that, man. It can be like where you're really like, you know, I mean, I've had times in LA, man, where it's like, I remember early days, like not 10 years prior to that, but 6 years prior to that moment, where it was like I was rolling. You don't used to go to the bank and get the you know, the rolls for pennies and nickels and dimes and things. I was rolling change out of a big jar for just so that I would have enough money to get through the week, you know, that so I could take those to the bank and get, you know, $26 or whatever I had. Like, it was that dire, you know. Clearly remember doing that. Like my apartment floor that I was living in with 3 people, you know, in a 2-bedroom, sharing a room with somebody. And sitting there on the floor with no furniture and rolling, you know, because I couldn't afford any of that, rolling pennies, sleeping on a futon on the floor. Like, I did all that stuff to get to wherever I got to, you know, just that kind of struggle, but I wasn't giving up, you know. I had to like, ugh. It was gnarly when I think about it, you know. When I look back now and I think about, like, you know, my parents and stuff, and worried about me, like I would have been worried about me too. I wouldn't wish on me, you know, like, not that it was like I never like ended up on the street or anything like that, but you know what I'm saying? I feel like it's really close for, like, you know, And this country, you know, like it or not, America's kind of gnarly when it comes to stuff like that. Like, you got to have it. You're on your own. Like, you are on your own. If you're in, you know, Norway or Germany, or you've got more options for, like, you know, if you're having a rough go, it's like, get sick or like different, as you guys know out there in America, it's just like I'd recommend that to anybody that, you know, it's like, if you're interested in coming here and you want to just know that, like it or not, you just have to make as much money as you possibly can. That's my hard advice. You know, you got to find that way to do that hustle. I follow Ice-T on Instagram, but no, more so on Threads. He's great on Threads because he's all about the hustle, you know, and he's all about, at his age, he's like 65 or whatever he is now. And at his age, he's like, I'm not slowing down, man. I got to hustle. He's, you know, talking about his daughter, and he's like, this is my inspiration for the hustle. Like, I get up every day, and, you know, it's basically like going to war, you know, and that is it exactly what I would choose? Not exactly, you know, but that's what I would recommend to anybody out there. And a lot of you guys are older, and you know what I'm talking about. You got to, like, you just got to every day, like, you know, the hustle is real. So yeah, do that while keeping your, you know, humanity. And that's the challenge, I think, that we're all faced with. Cole says, has there been any piece of gear you were really excited to try and ended up being really unimpressed with? Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, you know, I told the story of a Firebird that, you know, I ended up with my sort of prized Les Paul Custom because of the Firebird. It just didn't resonate, no pun intended, with me. It was just the way the guitar sat on my body. So I thought I was going to love it. It looked really cool and everything, and then I just didn't, you know. Other stuff, Mark III, you know, that amp I never bonded with. I might have just not known how to use it, but it was billed as being this great channel switching amp, you know, the Mark III. And it was kind of in the days before 3-channel amps, but it had 3 sounds that you could step through. And you couldn't make all 3 sound good. It was like, you can get one good sound, you know, for sure, out of them. But then it wasn't a channel switcher really, where it was like boom, 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 all 3. It never, they're kind of those old school, this guy too. I mean, I wouldn't expect it to do it because I know better now. You know, they're sort of a one-trick pony that is a great trick if you set it for the trick, you know. And it can be different tricks. Like, it's not just like, I shouldn't say one-trick pony. It's one-trick pony at a time. Right? So the Mark III I ended up trading because it was just frustrating trying to struggle, you know, with it. Somebody said Don Mock. No, I don't know that. So I don't have any idea. Wasn't that? I just said I remember Don Mock. You know, I'm not sure where he is now. If he's, you know, I don't know anything about his status, but I remember him from back in the 80s. Yeah. So we don't want to start rumors here. No idea. I haven't heard his name for a long time. What's the best small valve amp for bedroom volume for Van Halen sound? Oh, I would say that something like, to be honest, like something like a small valve amp, like something like a Friedman Runt 20 would probably serve you really well. The brown channel, you know, you can get that nice sound turned down low and then be able to get some volume out of it too. But they make a 112 Runt 20 combo, I think, that would work well for that. That, or maybe, you know, one of the EVH lunchbox amps, something like that. Yeah, like one of the little 15-watt guys with a little 112 cab. Yeah. Yeah, he was a part of GIT. That's right. Don Mock, part of GIT MI. That's right. Have you made any H90 patches to sell? No, I haven't. I haven't actually. Never done that. Update on 2 Notes Reload 2. Sorry if I missed. Work well at the gig. Yeah, it was great. QC, just one side out into the power amp, and then I ran it into a rented Marshall cab, which of course I think ended up being a 75-watt cab. I could specify 1960 BV all day long, or BX, and what'll show up, but a 1960 with 75 watters. That's always what happens. But you know what? In a gig like that, was way behind me. We were set up really far from the back line, actually. And I was probably relying more on the monitor, which had IRs in it anyway. So it doesn't really matter at that point. Yeah. 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 Okay. What else? Got a split soon. It's 2:02. I'm going to run and do some work. I've been on for about, 2 hours and 10 minutes. But I'll give it another just a few minutes here. So we've still got 333 people online. And that's fantastic. I appreciate you all being here. Are there any live recorded concerts of Henley when you were touring? No, we never did the other guys, they did an Austin City Limits right after I wasn't able to be there anymore because I was in Japan on tour and I had to leave. It was sad, but right after that, there was an Austin City Limits show that was done. I don't think we ever did TV in the years I was there. Nothing, but there's probably some cell phone videos or something out there. But the thing is, Don always pulls them all off YouTube, so there's not a hell of a lot out there. I could barely find photos of me doing it. I did it for 6 years. I've got a couple. That's it. One from some radio station website that put up a picture. I was like, there's a picture of me playing in the band. That's cool. Yeah. We did some good touring though. My favorite tour was a tour we did with a horn section. And we did some cool covers. And one of them was this song by Randy Newman, Guilty. And oh my God, what a cool song. And I remember touring with a 7-piece horn section. They were right behind me on my side of the stage. And I just remember the vibe of the horns was so cool. Like when they'd kick in, they didn't play on every song, but they played on things like Sunset Grill and, some of the Eagles numbers and stuff like that. And then they played on that version of Guilty that we did, which was such a cool song. Any song that starts us with, yes, baby, I've been drinking. It's probably a pretty cool song. It was such a dark vibe. Randy Newman. Don, I've mentioned this before, but like he was such a fan of music. He's really like a fan of things, new and old. And he had, his own particular taste, whatever he liked, but like all of us, and he was pretty, biased in his own way. But Randy, he was he introduced Randy and did the inauguration of him into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it was great. And, he had this real admiration for Randy Newman. And so anyway, great songwriter and lyricist, this is what a storyteller. So, and I love that song Guilty and how the sentiment and how the music is twisted behind it's a really beautiful song, but it's also kind of dark and twisted with this twisted sort of lyric. And the lyrics and the harmony and the melody and everything all match. It's just like a great piece of music. So, anyways, Learning Eruption by Van Halen. Your videos are helping a lot. Stay well. Just remember, my friend, that I made a mistake in the video. So, you want to do that like that. So I can't do it fast right now because I'd have to warm up, but you don't want it fast anyway. You want it slow. Okay, so that's an upstroke on the high E string. And then you're going to 8th fret, 5th fret, open on the B, and hit the E flat on of course it's going to be tuned down, so you're going to do that, but right on the 8th fret of the G string. So that's how you play that lick. Not however, I think I did that. And it sounds very different when you do it. It's got that chirp on the high E string. And it's all about that upstroke on the, that lick. And then he does that lick in a ton of other songs, like Somebody Get Me a Doctor and I'm the One, that whole thing, does it up a whole step. But anyway, it's all about the high E string. That makes sense. High E, upstroke, pull off 8th fret to 5th fret to open on the 2nd string, and then you hit the 8th fret on the G string. Yeah. That's the one part I taught wrong in the video. It's not even the wrong note. It's what string you play the note on that I was just first string, not the 2nd string, that E note. Yeah. Okay. What else? What else we got going here? I got to move down in the chat. Yeah. Oh, pick slide, next slide. It's lesson time. So pick slide, next slide. You just do the pick slide first, and then slide with your hand. So you can't hear it because I'm not plugged in, but it's almost like you start with the pick and then you continue with your hand. Or what's a right? Slide, pick slide, finger slide, pick slide, finger slide. My 5-minute lessons. Somebody said they like. Yeah, I enjoyed doing those too. Speaking of one with ADD, yeah, I mean that's me, full ADD. I'm convinced I have full ADHD. That's I don't know, maybe it's an excuse, but I feel like it would explain a hell of a lot. Play Nothing Else Matters. I like your sense of humor. All right. I'm all the way down to the bottom of the chat now. Anybody else got anything else before I go? Anything? Anyone? Bueller? Anyone? Before I split? Head off into the abyss of pedal demos. I got diagnosed after age 43 after suspecting it, but only worth doing if you think you need help. I mean, what is the help? Is it like, it's basically like Adderall or something, right? Is that kind of where it's at? I don't know. Not really sure. But I would assume, right? Which might be interesting if I could just focus and have more energy. All right, I think I'm going to go and I'm going to make a video on these guys right now. The Kaluna, Tube Overdrive, Space Time. For this, I'm going to do one video. I'm going to put both these pedals together and see what kind of creativity that I can come up with. Creativity. What kind of creativity they spawn. Yeah, because I got a lot of videos to make in the next 2.5 weeks. And then a little later today, I'm going to start going over some songs for you-know-who for tour. Get back into that mode mentally over the next couple of weeks. Just once again, I'm very prepared. That's the key. All right, everybody. Thanks for your super chats and your coffee contributions. I do appreciate it. This has been really fun. There's Peter. Thanks, man. Super Sunday show. Looking for all the videos this week. Yeah, you'll see a video on these two guys coming soon. Some other effects pedals that are really interesting that I've got here. There's a new one from Crazy Tube Circuits, the Venus. I'm excited about that. Ethos preamp. Some other stuff, man. Solar. Let's take a quick look here. Actually, I just want to see something, make sure I'm not just before I go, I want to show you something real quick. I just want to make sure I'm not talking about something that I'm not supposed to. Yeah. Just one sec. Let's make sure. Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all out there. So the Chug. Where's my solar pedals? Chug tuner This is Ola, of course, Ola from Solar. And some neat looking pedals here. So this is the Chug EQ Boost, which looks really cool. Parametric EQ with level controls and the whole 9 yards, so you can shape your really nice knobs that feel in the pots and everything. I mean, it feels like a mixing console almost, as far as the, and the kind of the resistance and stuff of the. So that looks interesting. Maybe to put in the loop of my amp and try just kind of tweaking to get some, because the EQ is kind of everything. Really get some, open up the sound of your amp with EQ. But then also this looks really interesting. This is from Solar as well, and this is a tuner with a boost built in. So a great big knob there for gain, and then it's a tuner pedal, mute, boost, kind of cool. Got 2 outputs with a ground lift, so you could drive 2 amplifiers with this. That's pretty cool. Like if you want to blend, sound of 2 amps, and you can lift right on the pedal. Some thoughtful stuff going on there. So pretty neat. So I'll be checking those out real soon too. From Ola. I really enjoy Ola, his channel. Knowledgeable guy, funny guy, obviously does a great job. A great player. Okay, everybody. Thanks, Peter, for the super chat. Thanks, y'all, for being here. I'm going to get to work, and it's been fun, enjoyable. I'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Have a great week. Over and out.